Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Rausan Pereira. Recent media reports claim that Pakistan has launched a cyber warfare against India by spreading fake propaganda on Islamophobia in India. The Hindustan Times reported that authorities in India have linked several social media posts that targeted India and Prime Minister Modi to Pakistan. Intelligence agencies in Pakistan have been exploiting social media platforms to fuel anti-India sentiments in the Gulf countries to put a strain on the ties of India with the West Asian countries. Earlier, Pakistan used similar tactics when certain sections of Article 370 were revoked in 2019, but failed miserably. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyze how Pakistan's fake anti-India social media propaganda has been exposed yet again. Joining me on the program today are Vivek, Katju, former ambassador, Major General Ashwani Siwach, defense and security expert, and Jiten, Jain, cyber security analyst. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Jiten, let me begin the program with you. Let's first try and understand and analyze the scale of the problem and how big an issue it really is.
This is at a scale so big that we can't even imagine. And this has not started just now. This has been going on since almost a year. We saw initial, flavor of it during the surgical strikes, but what you saw was a full-fledged information warfare display after the Balakot airstrikes. So there was a, flood of videos showing, burning visuals of Indian pilots, downing of Indian aircrafts. And 90% of those videos were fake. They were of different incidents which happened 4 years ago across different parts of the world. But during the operation, all of those videos were, flooded on social media and internet to create a narrative that India has suffered more, sort of a blow than in the Pakistan-led airstrikes on Kashmir. Second, what you saw was a high-graded information warfare display, which was out there to prove that no damage happened, during the Indian airstrikes at Balakot. So, there were flood of pictures of those madrasas, visuals at Balakot, and then, foreign people writing articles. That was a full-fledged orchestrated campaign running to basically deny the very claim of India that they had done any sort of damage in Pakistan or targeted any sort of terror camps. Now, this was basically an event-based action that India did something we wanted to deny and dominate the narrative on that. But what we have been seeing in last 6 months is much sinister. So ever since 370 has been abrogated in Kashmir, Pakistan has somehow realized that they cannot do much by using the conventional military means. The economy of Pakistan is not in a very viable state to carry out any offensive operations. But what they have realized is that the cyber warfare or information warfare or propaganda offers them a very low cost, cheap alternative to exploit. I'm not saying that they have done it, but exploit already existing religious fault lines in India, to exploit the political divisions in our society. So this is where you saw that despite of internet being completely banned, despite of any communication, all sort of communication being banned in Kashmir, there were flood of videos of how Indian army was torturing Kashmiri people. There were videos of bombs being thrown at residents, and all of them were, most of them, 90% of them were the fake videos of Syria, of Palestine, and the images were circulated to create a narrative that it is Indian army which is trying to attempt a genocide of Muslims in Kashmir, an absolutely fake narrative. Then comes, Delhi riots. Again, you see the violent protest by pro-CAA lobby were termed as sort of riots. And once the riot started, the social media was, flooded. And we have submitted a report of Home Ministry, part of which was quoted in Parliament also, that how, 62 high-impact, high-quality videos and images of riots, Delhi riots were circulated in social media, watched by millions of viewers within a span of 10 days, all uploaded by fake handles to create a narrative that first a violent protest was riots. Once the riots started, it was labeled as genocide. So this transition of violent protest to riots and riots to genocide is an orchestrated, the campaign running from a factory in Pakistan, which is called ISPR, Inter-Services Public Relations. Now, even in the times of COVID, where the entire society is fighting for the survival, for the peace in society, for treatment, you would have seen the recent report we gave to Home Ministry, where we have found that hundreds of videos on TikTok were planted to target the minority Muslim community in India on the, some pretext of religious texts that Muslims should not follow social and lockdown guidelines in India because coronavirus does not happen to Muslims. So this has been going on at massive level, coupled with now what you are seeing that Pakistan has been creating fake handles throughout Middle East, posing themselves as Middle Eastern people, then trying to create a picture of Islamophobia in India. So I will tell you, we have analyzed a hashtag Islamophobia in India. First 3,000 handles, you would not believe that we started trending this hashtag were all from Pakistan. Now, obviously, there are some loose comments made by Indian people, Indian politicians, people in society. But the initial trending of, putting sort of, creating a fire is all done in Pakistan. It has been fanned. And that is where our society has to be extremely careful that this is not some mischievous elements within Indian society posting some stuff. It is a well-mediated, pre-planned, massive social media propaganda campaign which is running out of Pakistan to divide India on religious lines, create a picture of the Prime Minister and government that they are anti-minorities, create a picture of your institutions that they have submitted to the government and they are not able to protect, like Delhi police. They are conniving with government to kill Muslims. So we have to be very, very careful with the sinister designs of Pakistan.
Right. Okay. All right. We have to be careful of the sinister designs of Pakistan is what Jiten Jain is suggesting. Ambassador, this is where I'd like to bring you in. I mean, this is something that is expected, isn't it, as far as the Pakistani deep state is concerned? I mean, they are going to try and do everything that they possibly can to try and destabilize us.
No, you are entirely correct. This has been Pakistan's objective right from the very beginning, right from 1947, to create fissures in Indian society. And now they have started using the technology, the information technology, the social media platforms that are available to them to launch this kind of cyber warfare. So here again, the question is, how do we handle it? Just as I believe that we've been on the defensive handling Pakistani terror because we've created hardened positions. We've never taken the war into Pakistan, and I don't mean crudely bomb for bomb. But here again, if it is a country which has launched cyber attacks against you of this nature, the question is, will you be on the defensive always? I think the Pakistanis need to be given a taste of their own medicine by launching again, and not propaganda, but revealing the truth about Pakistan. The Pakistanis build false narratives. We don't need to take recourse to false narratives about Pakistan, but only highlight the actual situation in Pakistan. So my own feeling is that we've got to follow a two-track policy. One, remain vigilant about Pakistani cyber propaganda, Pakistani dirty tricks, and two, to show them that, look, if you undertake all this to try to expose us and falsely build up false narratives, then we will educate people abroad. For example, educate our friends in the Gulf that, look, these are all not your doing. We know that this is coming from Pakistan, and for this, we need to get sophisticated. Mr. Jain has done yeoman's work, but we need to build on it so that technically, when we expose the Pakistani handlers, we are on very perfect ground. Second, I think we also need to highlight what Pakistan is doing. So this is a sophisticated game that has to be played, and being on the defensive will not accomplish our task. My last point is that, look, it's been Pakistan's great disappointment that when it came to Kashmir, the world didn't listen to them. Not only, and they were especially disappointed that the Islamic Ummah didn't listen to them. So now they wish to project, especially to the Islamic Ummah, that India is now dominated by an ideology which is inherently anti-Muslim. We need to correct that, and one way of correcting it also is that the government and the ruling party keeps a very tight control over their loose mouth sort of members. That is also essential.
Okay, all right. Taking the discussion forward now. So, like Jiten Jain was pointing out in his opening remarks, General, this is not something new. This is something that has been going on for some time now. How do we counter this? I mean, what is in Kashmir? The military has been extremely successful in calling Pakistan's ambitions there and trying to negate all of that. And it seems like these are desperate times as far as the Pakistani deep state is concerned, and that's why they're trying everything possible to try and make some kind of a dent in Kashmir and in our country. So how can we counter this cheap propaganda, if we can call it that?
Frank, no doubt about it, it needs a multi-pronged strategy. The point is that after 5th August, abrogation of Article 370, when the way the net was totally shut down, the way number of precautions which were taken place in Kashmir Valley, though they may have done little bit damage, but by and large, the Kashmir Valley was very peaceful because whatever measure was taken by Indian state was very effective, especially of completely blackout of internet. So number of other actions which were also taken in Kashmir Valley, wherein the Pakistan was feeling desperate. Pakistan was feeling that there will be some sort of disturbance which will take place in Valley. People will come to the street and Pakistan agenda will be successful. It never happened that way because Indian state has acted maturely. Now, as far as this is concerned, this is the lesson which we have learned, that if we handle our media well, we can counter the propaganda which is initiated by Pakistan. Now, same way we have to do all over the country. Now, remember what is happening is, after Talabigi Jamaat has managed to, spread the disease, coronavirus all around the country, the media which was generated by Pakistan false propaganda has given a very different picture, wherein they are saying that you are going after the Muslims. A divide was to be created between India, Hindus and Muslims and other districts. So this we have to handle it with maturity. We should come out and tell to the media our proactive strategy and also exploit the fault lines of Pakistan. The point as far as Pakistan is tit for tat. You have to handle him that way. You have to also give him what he is doing. What is happening in Balochistan, what is happening in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, what is happening in Gilgit-Baltistan. Expose the true color of Pakistan. We don't have to, color it, because as it is, there are a number of things which are happening in Pakistan, which Pakistan has got a poor track record of human rights violation. Now, my biggest worry is that this, what is going to happen in Afghanistan. Now, the talks between Taliban and US has already over on 29th February. Now, the process has started off, the prisoners have been exchanged, and now the process will start to the next step, that possibly, the talks will take place in time to come. Now, Pakistan has already started a propaganda in Afghanistan that India had no role, and there are a number of rumors which have been spread through the social media that India is also creating a wedge between Pakistani and Afghani in Afghanistan, and whatever infrastructure development which India had done in Afghanistan had its own agenda. So therefore, anti-India sentiments are being circulated in Afghanistan. It is time we wake up and try to take countermeasure to it, because they are thinking that India may have some role in Afghanistan after the Americans have gone. They are countering that. To counter this, we have to have our own strategy wherein we should expose Pakistan multifariously and diplomatically, politically isolate him. He had got basically what happened is that his weak point is his financial condition. Expose it. Right. Make sure in financial action task force, Pakistan is downgraded to blacklist.
Okay, all right. Taking the discussion forward now. Yes, Ambassador, you wanted to point out something. Go ahead.
Look, I'll only one short point. I don't think we'll ever succeed in getting Pakistan blacklisted in the FATF because of the rules of the FATF. They need only 3 countries to support them to prevent blacklisting, and those 3 countries will always be China, Turkey, and Malaysia.
Okay, all right. Okay, taking the discussion forward now. So Jiten Jain, how do we counter this? Okay, and first and foremost, let's talk about how all of this originates, how this is being done, how is this propaganda being spread by Pakistan. Secondly, do we counter it with better technology, or what should our answer really be to this problem?
You see, all sort of information warfare campaigns always have two objectives. One is to get some, immediate results or short-term objectives, and one is to, attain a large-term strategic objective by running that campaign. So if you look at the disinformation campaign related to Kashmir, their immediate thing was to steer trouble in Kashmir, that people should come out on streets and protest. Now, that probably did not happen to an extent they wanted. And the larger objective was that there has to be a picture of India painted across the world that this is a anti-Muslim country trying to run a genocide in Kashmir targeting Islamic community. And then probably get all the countries which have been standing in support of India. See, we have had a phenomenal growth in the India-Middle East relations. I mean, most of the Muslim countries in Middle East today have got very strong relationship with India. And that is a factor which Pakistan has not been able to digest, especially India's relation with the UAE and Iran. Now, that objective of getting these Islamic countries or OIC countries or Middle Eastern countries stand together with Pakistan on name of Islam against Indian Kashmir did not happen. They tried the similar thing in Delhi. See, 59 lives are lost, hundreds of crores of damage, property was gone. Then you start painting a picture that, law enforcement agencies like Delhi Police and Ministry of Home Affairs are working in tandem with RSS to carry out the genocide of Muslims, and then ask Muslims to protest and defend themselves by posting fake videos of RSS goons carrying guns and all those things. Once some reactions happens, obviously you have put the fire, and now you start painting a picture that there is a deep religious divide in India where Muslims are being targeted and countries should speak up.
Right.
Now, that's where, I agree with Ambassador Katju that we've suffered our first foreign policy casualty when, because of fake news, Iran issued a statement against us after Delhi riots. And absolutely 90% of content we analyze in Iran is 100% fake news originating out of Syria, Palestine, and all Bangladeshi videos labeled as Delhi right videos. Now, second, now come COVID. Again, on the name of Jamaat or other things, you start creating a social media narrative of Islamophobia in India to again create a situations that where on the name of Islam, you are able to misguide and mislead Indian Muslims not to follow lockdown guidelines. So immediate, trouble maybe to ensure that Muslims do not follow, they run away and all those things. But the larger objective was that India's lockdown has to fail, because every day we have to extend a lockdown, we end up suffering a loss of more than lakhs of crores. And that's where Pakistan has realized that our economy has already gone for a toss. We have no money. So let's put the same thing in India. So now you look at the cases, 30% of cases coming from a particular group, even if we had to extend the lockdown kind of economic situation we have to face. Now, third, again, you start painting a picture of Islamophobia in India. Now you have got three things. You post all the Kashmiri videos, you post all the Delhi right videos, and again say that look at what is happening in Jamaat, coupled with this fanatic statements by these loose politicians in India, and then ask countries to issue statements against India. And we have suffered second foreign policy casualty, because yesterday I think some verified handles in Middle East are tweeting that cabinet in Kuwait has issued a statement condemning Indian government. So I 100% agree with Ambassador Katju that we have to be very vigilant. We have to detect these campaigns on time. First thing what we have to do is to tell all Middle Eastern countries that which Pakistan is trying to target to make them stand against India, that look, you might be the victims of these falsified narratives. You might be the victims of this fake news infodemic, and our foreign relations might suffer too. So be very, very careful in what you see and what you believe. Third, I think this approach of, as Ambassador Katju said, probably giving them a taste of their own medicine. I 100% agree that वो कहते हैं ना लातों के भूत बातों से नहीं मानते. See, their society is deeply fractured society. We can exploit any issue like Balochistan and any other thing. But as a civilized society in India, we have never done that. We are fighting to contain COVID. We are not fighting to create trouble in Pakistan. This is where difference between India and Pakistan lies. But I think if it comes to an extent that India is suffering because of this, our foreign policy is suffering because of things, I think the stringent action has to be taken, and they have to be, delivered the same medicine in their own taste, maybe much bigger in size and much better in taste.
Okay, all right. Ambassador, let's talk about another aspect now. Will all of this have an impact with our ties, with our West Asian allies? over the last few years, we've seen that our ties have grown many-fold. We've converted them into strategic alliances as well. So is that under stress now?
I don't think that the West Asian governments would be impacted by Pakistani propaganda. The governments have a fair idea of what is actually happening. However, I'm not so certain of the impact on their societies and especially on their religious clergy. Because if it is projected day in and day out that India has Islamophobia, and that is exactly what Imran Khan is trying to do. If you see his speeches right from August 5 last year till now, all the focus is that India is in the grip of anti-minoritism, India is in the grip of anti-Muslim sentiments, etc. And how this is fanned is they take a loose comment and blow it up. Now, the fact is that the loose comment is blown up by the mainstream media. Let us not forget that unless the mainstream media creates a ground for a false narrative, it is very difficult for the false narrative to be sustained. So the mainstream media, the liberal press, liberal international media would pick up a story, and that story then is fanned. It can be a story which is a totally stray story. You have a loose mouth person who's making a comment. You have someone who's crazy, making something, some comment against the minorities, and that then creates a fertile ground for these social media handles to work upon, and that impacts on society. That is why my plea, which I am happy that Mr. Jain has agreed with, that loose comments have to be very tightly controlled.
I 200% agree with sir. And let's take an example, specific example of how Pakistan is done. So from last 2-3 weeks, several videos, fake videos, I would say old videos have surfaced of some Muslim fruit sellers spitting on fruits and selling. I mean, Indian society has a habit of touching mouth and counting currency notes. People polish apples. It happens in Southern Asia. So some 2-year-old 4 or 5 videos are picked up, circulated here and there, and all done by these fake handles in Pakistan. And once that started viraling in India by real handles, couple of people made loose comments like, don't buy fruits from Muslims. Now that's where the objective is served. Once you have couple of loose cannons spitting such statements, these are then amplified and projected as mainstream narrative of India by Pakistan, that look, this is what is happening in India, that people are refusing to buy because of Islamophobia, and obviously then under pressure government has to take action against these people. Right. Once the FIR or registered action is taken, they further amplify the narrative that their own government is admitting that this is happening in India. So it is a vicious cycle. It's a trap we are falling into by not curbing the very origin of fake news. And once it is amplified, served with these loose cannon statements, there is no way out. You are caught in 360 degree of web. You can't come out. An example: we analyzed 40,000 handles which are talking about this Islamophobia, other Islamic narrative in India. Guess what? Not even a single one of them who are talking about the world to stand up as one for Islam has talked a word about Uyghur Muslims in China. The only country which does this hypocrisy is Pakistan. 80% handles we analyzed are linked to ISPR in Pakistan, Inter-Services Public Relations. So, once you have a professional military agency carrying out the government a pre-planned objective of such sort of information warfare in a foreign country, not only playing with our internal rifts, creating trouble in our internal country, but also targeting our foreign policy. I think we have to first understand that you can't fight such a large game by the reactionary approach. You have to have an organized setup to target this, detect this, and do what is required for 1.130 crore people of India. We can't just sit like lame ducks and get targeted every time, ever again.
Okay, all right, General. So what is the bigger game plan really as far as the Pakistani deep state is concerned? Like Jiten Jain has just pointed out, about 80% of these handles came from the, at the highest level in Pakistan. So what is the bigger game plan, and How do we deal with that?
See, Frank, there are two ways. One is within the country. Wherever these videos are circulating within the country, that we have to take an action. That wherein that this fake videos are not circulated. Unnecessarily, it does not become a part of the game. Second thing which we need to do is what is happening in Gulf. Now this point which was coming, the 60 to 80 lakh people who work there, if there is a tension in society in Middle East, it will affect all those people, Indians who are working there. That is the biggest problem which is there. You know, there are two Twitter handles. One was two princes, one was of Oman and also of Saudi Arabia. That was hacked and that was impersonated and that was shown that it was tweeting anti-Indian sentiment. And finally it was realized, now this was not the Twitter handle of either of these princes. It was all impersonated by Pakistan. Their Fauji, you know, the Twitter handle which is there. So therefore, this is what we have to expose. We have to be proactive. Our strategy is to expose Pakistan. At the same time, educate our own society that do not become victim of the propaganda which is generated by Pakistan. The tension which they are trying to create between Hindu and Muslim. You know, mainly what they are doing is they are tweeting as a Hindu or a Christian or a Muslim or Arab to create a divide. That divide has to be seen. We have to also educate our public. We have to also take a strict action against those defaulters, whosoever he may be. He may be part of the government. We must be very firm. Now, my point, what I was trying to convey is how we handle Kashmir. If we handle the complete area, we have a reason to believe that we will be successful. And same way which I told, as far as Afghanistan is concerned, we start being active now only because things are going to be bad for India in case the propaganda which is generated by Pakistan regarding Afghanistan become true. So we have to be very careful. So overall, what my point is, multi-pronged strategy is the requirement of the day. Expose Pakistan, educate our own people, take preventive measures, and ensure that your friendly countries, including West Asia, which is there, Middle East, has to be told at the highest level that this is the game plan of Pakistan. Expose Pakistan, and then only we can succeed. So my point is multi-pronged strategy is the requirement of the day. Another thing is Pakistan needs to be exposed diplomatically and politically. If you think that we will not able to push them on this channel, but push him economically, try to be, I agree with the ambassador that he may not be blacklisted because he needs 3. The fact that he remains on the gray itself is a victory. Put him on the pressure. Diplomatically and politically isolate Pakistan as much as possible.
Okay, I've got very limited time left on the program, so very quick closing comments from all my guests in 30 seconds each with the best way forward, starting first with you, Jiten.
Frank, you know, in this entire thing, we also have to hold the social media companies accountable. You can't make, you know, hundreds and billions of dollars in India and then say that we can't do anything. That government of India has to point out. Something happens in US, you have all sort of policies coming up like that. Political advertisements have to be verified. But when it comes to India, take an example of this handle Jahid Hamid. He is spreading venom day and night. He was the one who started a rumor that 130, Muslim women are missing and raped in Delhi during the Delhi riots, and Delhi police is not doing anything. Now, verified blue tick handles are peddling all such lies day and again, every time, and Twitter does not take any action with them.
Certainly, social media companies also need to be held accountable at some level. Yes,
Twitter does not throw these people out of platforms. We should ensure that Twitter is stringently deal with the Indian laws.
Okay, all right, Ambassador.
We've got to take the problem seriously. First of all, we've got to understand that the Pakistanis have deep animosities against us, which will not go and which will manifest themselves in different ways. And one of them is this cyber sort of attacks. And therefore, devise coherent strategies to deal with them, both in keeping a tight control over our loose-lipped people, and second, over telling the Pakistanis and showing them through concrete action that they can also get a taste of their medicine, not through false narratives, but merely through exposing what their domestic situation truly is, which is abominable.
Absolutely. And General, close the show for us with your quick concluding remark.
Frank, there is no doubt as far as Pakistan is concerned, tit for tat is a strategy which Pakistan understands. If we think that Pakistan is going to mend its way of its own, possibly not. The way we have handled after, this 5 of our Jawans which were martyred in Kashmir, the way we have responded by having a complete destruction of their ammunition dump, their artillery base, as well as the POK camp, is a step in the right direction. So, taking a lesson from here, now if we want to be proactive as far as media is concerned, ensure whatever are the fault lines in Pakistan, exploit that also. Do not let them have a free run. As far as India is concerned, educate and preventive measures to be taken at all levels.
All right. On that note, then we'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.